There's been a tremendous focus in recent years on opioid addiction, and before that, addiction to cigarettes and alcohol. But what about gambling addiction? ONR's Ed Murray examines the size and scope of the problem in Oklahoma.
And I was praying, and God said, I still remember to this day, when are we going to talk about your gambling addiction? And I remember saying to God, you can have everything in my life, but you can't have that.
Recovering gambling addicts telling their stories to a conference of counselors. All three embezzled from their employers and spent time behind bars. Deanne Michoud took more than $400,000.
I had not realized how much money had gone through the casinos, what I had gone through.
No idea, because for many addicts, it's not about the money.
There is one saying that money is the drug. Well, for some it may be, but it wasn't for me. For me, it was, I enjoyed being there. I enjoyed the atmosphere. I enjoyed everything about it.
The nonprofit Oklahoma Association on Problem and Compulsive Gambling conducted a study of our state.
And we came out with 3.2% of the adult population qualified for the diagnosis called gambling disorder. So that's significant. That's almost twice the national average.
Executive Director Wiley Harwell wasn't surprised, considering our state has 130-plus casinos. These addicted gamblers have a high rate of suicide, among other problems. Current gaming compact regulations are not strong enough, says Oklahoma Council of Public Affairs President Jonathan Small.
It's not uncommon for state governments to say for highly addictive industries, we have to have a different regulatory mechanism than what we might for somebody that's selling lemonade or something like that.
It's a difficult conversation.
Matthew Morgan is chairman of the Oklahoma Indian Gaming Association.
When your activity stops being fun, that's a problem for everyone, just not the individuals, but for the operators too. All of our members go above and beyond those statutory requirements on training, on information, on supporting those efforts and trying to work within local communities to try to address this issue.
About 60% of the money that we function on to provide treatment and awareness and everything comes from donations directly from the tribes. So in the past 2 years, we have more awareness than we've ever had, but mainly it's by the voluntary efforts of the tribes to help support responsible gambling in our state.
The casinos are not responsible for my addiction. I am responsible for my addiction. The C&H Sugar Company is not responsible for being overweight.
Rick Brinkley's fall was very public. A popular state senator from Owasso, he embezzled at least $1.8 million from the Tulsa Better Business Bureau.
I knew I was destroying my life, but I convinced myself that I was enjoying it. You just evaporate into what's going on, and you don't have to worry about anything. You don't have to think about anything. You just sit there and you just want to keep playing, and you just want to keep escaping and not have to go back to the real world.
If you sit at a slot machine for X number of hours, the brain goes into a trance-like activity. So logic, reason, and consequential thinking aren't working. Nothing.
Harwell's group publishes awareness brochures, including criteria for a gambling disorder.
We estimate in the problem gambling world that 10% of those that actually qualify for the diagnosis ever seek help, and that includes going to Gamblers Anonymous meetings. So 10%, that's not a lot of people.
Brinkley is out of prison on probation, but he and his panel mates will make restitution for years to come.
I just have to not gamble for the next 24 hours. I got to get to the next day. In a couple of weeks, I will have been 5 years without a bet. And it's almost like it never happened, but I can't forget it. I wear this bracelet, and this bracelet is actually the boot strings from the boots that I wore in prison. So every day when I put this on my wrist, it reminds me that if I go back to where I was, I'm going to go back to where I was. And so you just need little reminders along the way that you've got this.
And help is just one phone call or one click away, Brinkley says, once you realize your life's worth saving. Ed Murray, the Oklahoma News Report.
By a unanimous vote, the Oklahoma House passed a bill this week that would allow the state to set rules and standards for certification for problem gambling counselors.